I have done a lot of things on TV. When they found out I was going to be in the reboot of The Proud Family, everybody was like, no, say on God. I got to say on God about The Proud Family? Like, wow.
For those who don't know, Holly's father was the original Gordon on Sesame Street.
I didn't even know that. Mm-hmm. Oh, that's dope.
The OG.
Very
the
cool.
original
Oh,
Gordon.
I love that.
As soon as I walked on that set and I saw those lights, I was like,
this is it.
I was like, this is me.
What was it like for you? Because I've heard stories of like men having to now find themselves after they end their career.
Ooh.
Who are they out of football? So what was that transition?
What time is it, Dom?
What did you go through?
We're going to pretend this is something else right now. But, that's what momming is, just constantly coming up with new ways to thug it out.
Yep. First, let's go into when you had RJ and Ryan and RJ gets his diagnosis, what that did to you, what that did to Rodney. I know that your father also had Parkinson's disease. So let's go into like your life of caregiving.
I spend so much time talking to my clients about the importance of proper nutrition outside of the gym. And the number one area of struggle is not getting enough protein. So Boss and Kevin developed Vita Hustle 1 superfoods for this very reason. This plant-based blend contains 86 superfood ingredients that support muscle recovery and overall well-being. It's not just about what you do in the gym, it's also about how you fuel your body. So try Vita Hustle 1 superfood in vanilla bean, dark cocoa, which is my fave, or superfood greens in the popular berry flavor. Use code MEAGAIN for 15% off your first order.
Hey everyone, it's me again, your host Dominique, and my co-host
Nature.
We are back with season 3, and today I am so excited. I have one of my favorite people, a great mentor, Holly Robinson Peete is here with us today.
I'm so happy to be here.
Thank you
I'm
for
just
coming.
watching you. I know. Excuse me while I look at her like she's my little daughter that I raised. I'm like, look at her. Look at her just doing her thing. I love it. I'm so happy to be here to talk to you. I'm a big fan of the podcast. I listen all the time, and y'all are really covering some stuff that a lot of people aren't talking about. So congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, so to that point, Nature, and for those who are listening, so Holly and I, we've known each other for quite some time. I was her assistant and also worked for her foundation. And then, her family unit, it was almost like that was my family. I'm like, between all those kids, RJ, Ryan, Roman is my favorite right now. Sorry, other kids. I'm just loving his looks. I'm like Roman and then Robinson, I just love them. So I love seeing them.
Well, they love you too. And then the last person to see me when I left the house was Roman. Tell Dom I said, what's up? So we love, it's a love fest because now watching you with your 3 boys, like it feels like a full circle moment.
Full circle moment.
Happy to be here. Excited to meet you.
Yes.
And
let's get into it.
What you want to know? What you want to know?
So Nature, I just have to address. Nature is cold.
I'm so cold.
Oh
y'all.
Yeah, Nature got this big shawl on.
I made my own shawl out of a nice little aesthetically pleasing blanket.
Yeah, I'm not mad at it. Okay, so today's topic is balancing power with your partner, driving change in family, career, and advocacy. Mm-hmm. So one of the icebreaker questions is, I'm going to read it because I'm awful at remembering things, and I'll read it just from my phone. Okay, so can you share a moment when you experienced such a shift with your significant other or within your family dynamic? Like, what was that, and how, as women, I would say, do we adjust?
Oh my goodness. There's so many shifts. I'm trying to figure out which season of our life. There were so many different shifts. We've been together for 31 years. We just have had several shifts. But let's see, I'll take you to the NFL shift because that was early on in our career, early on in our marriage. We made the decision to live sort of apart while Rodney was playing football. So I was in LA working on a show, and Rodney was in, let's see, which city? The first one was Detroit.
Okay.
And it was always a commute. And so when we consciously decided we're going to shift our relationship into a long distance relationship, that was a very intentional moment. And I'm glad we did that because no one was giving us a shot. Like, you're going off to the NFL, you're working in Hollywood, y'all, I mean, and you're not going to see each other that much? Like, what? But we were very, very intentional about making it work.
Yep.
And the only reason why it happened is because we believed that it could happen and we wanted to fight for it. Now, when we've had twins, marriage is one thing, but when you have babies, that's a whole nother thing.
Yeah.
And he was playing in Philadelphia then, so I would go from shooting a show called For Your Love at that time. I would get off that plane and hand him those babies like, here you go, because I've been with them, I've been taking care of them. And remember, he was a quarterback, so that's like the general of the team. So he really didn't have a lot of free time, but I'm like, you're gonna make it. You're gonna figure this free time out and take these kids. But all of it was intentional, but there was definitely so much shifting, so much pivoting, and it was a struggle.
Yep. And I'm going to, like I said earlier, like mentor, GOAT of all things, right? GOAT in motherhood you are. GOAT as an actress and been in the industry for so long, and GOAT with philanthropy. But right now I'm relating to this motherhood change for me. I think it's the number one thing that has me choked up. I'm like, what is going on? It's taken a 3-year-old, a 2-year-old, and 10-month-year-old to just wear me out. You know what I mean? And it's such a blessing, but it really does change your whole outlook, the way you move, the dynamic of your marriage. I'm sure it's taken a toll on, Boss and I's marriage. And like, what's that like? Because he's gone, he's not in the NFL. But what is your advice to someone like me? Because he's, Boss is gone all day and he's the provider and that's what he wants to do.
Yeah.
And I'm at home and I'm like the default parent, you know what I mean? You try not to stress them because they got their own thing going on.
That's right.
But it's like, how do you manage?
Well, first of all, you have a good team around you. You got your mom, you got friends, you got aunties, you got people who are around you who understand what you're going through and they want to see you win. And that's the biggest thing, to have a team around you. When I had these twins, I was working full-time on a TV show. Rodney was playing football in a whole another city across an entire country. And I had these 2 babies. I was double nursing. Like, I can't even remember it.
You forget
It's all a blur. Like, I'm like, I see pictures now of me with 2 babies nursing me at the same time. And I'm just like, how did this happen? Then I look at that little hormonal hair I had and I was like, oh, yeah, that was cute too. But it's crazy. You just do it, Dom. You have what it takes. You have that sauce in you to do it, and you balance it, and you don't even know you're balancing it.
Yeah.
You don't even realize it until later on, till your kids mine are 26, and now I look at those pictures. I'm like, how did we get through this? But at the end of the day, it was a team.
Right.
Had good help, had good people, good friends, and a good employer. My girlfriend Yvette was my employer. She and I had babies at the same time. She would let me go nurse. There were times when she knew I needed to nurse. And when it's time to nurse,
It's time. It's gorgeous. It's time.
baby, it's, all of that. And they were like, I can see you got to go nurse. So we nursed these kids on the set. So I was just really blessed to have a boss who understood, a mom who understood, that really just sacrificed everything so that I could do it all.
That's incredible.
Now, there were things that I couldn't do, like stuff didn't happen or balls would drop left and right. But at the end of the day, I had people around me that were supportive. And that's the biggest thing you want. You want someone around you who gets what your mission is. And, you get through it. But twins, I was like, first of all, twins sounds as hard as it is. I met a lady recently with triplets, and I'm like,
How?
what?
How?
And but that's what people say about twins. But by the way, you did the back to back to back to back. I mean, you have
That's
been
like
pregnant.
fake triplets, honestly.
Yes, seriously. Seriously. And it is not easy, but you learn all these amazing things along the way.
Yep.
Your kids watch you juggling and doing great balancing acts. That's a life lesson for them. And yeah, your husband is a go-getter. He's out there. He's up with the birds.
Chirping.
Chirp, chirp.
For them, probably.
Okay. The birds are looking down like
He's waking them up. I'm like,
he needs to do a video
Gosh.
with the birds talking.
that
Like
used to be his thing, and then he stopped it, and now he's starting to bring it back a bit. I'm
he's
like,
bringing back the chirps. I
go.
noticed that. But he's a go-getter, and he always wanted you. He wants you to thrive and do cool things, but he likes having you as being the mom and being the hands-on woman, and you're doing it.
Yeah.
You know, you're doing it. You're doing several things at once. So at the time when you're asking for suggestions and everything, you're really actually just thugging it out. You know, you're white knuckling your way through it.
Day by
And that's
day.
what we do. That's
As
what we
women.
do.
Because in hindsight, you'll look back and say like, "Oh, I actually
I
kind of
did
killed that."
that.
Although I was like drowning, I thought I was drowning. But, like,
Right.
I feel like I haven't been able to. Well, I feel like since I'm still a little bit on the younger end of just my life, and I'm like I always say, I'm scratching adulthood now.
Yeah.
I feel like my biggest transition has been momhood. Momhood and moving from, because I'm from New York originally, born and raised. So I moved here about 2 years ago. We made the big move for career purposes. So that has been like a huge shift and dynamic change of trying to adjust and juggle not having support and family out here, trying to find that support and family out here, but while
Yeah.
also trying to work, find myself again because I went through a midlife crisis.
Right.
A fake midlife crisis.
A
when I turned
younger
20.
midlife.
young
I call it a
midlife.
1/4 life crisis.
Yeah, I would say a quarter life
Definitely.
crisis.
I call it a quarter life crisis, but I definitely went through one of those where it's like, oh, fuck. Like,
Yeah.
oh, I have to figure this out. And it's like, then everything is like, you're working, you're momming, you got to find time for you. But it's like, you feel like you're drowning. But then in hindsight, I do look at myself sometimes and I'm like, all right, this week wasn't that bad. Like I
Right.
was able to accomplish X, Y, and Z. I was able, and even like the small little things.
And that's so
So,
important to
yeah.
gas yourself up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you have to, because if
Oh
we
my
don't,
gosh.
oh, we're gonna just
Who's going to do it?
right.
Because if you're
nobody.
looking for it, I mean, there's some people that are, you're doing a great job, you're killing it. But at the end of the day, you've got to take inventory of all the things you are doing.
You have to feel
Right.
that you. It's not like, because like you were saying, like there are people that you want to hear it, but
Yeah.
if you don't feel like that internally, somebody saying that to you is not.
Well, it's been challenged. Well, I could speak for myself. For me, it's like, you know, one thing that I admire about you and your dynamic with Rodney as well is that you can continue to be your actress. You continue to do your thing.
do your thing, which I admire.
Even though that Rodney, you know, was NFLing it and doing his stuff, because for me, I placed so much value in my accolades and my goals that I had, so that when suddenly my husband wants this more of a Southern dynamic, traditional
Right.
dynamic, and I almost lost value in myself.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And
Yes.
so reiterating the importance of like bigging yourself up, making yourself feel like, oh, I did this. Okay, that was great. I accomplished that. And changing my idea of like what's valuable, especially in our family unit,
Yeah.
has been important to me. You know?
Yeah, that is important, and you know, and that's a struggle because he has, and I knew this even when we were working together.
Yeah.
Like he loved me. We love him, but he didn't. He was like, I want her home, and I
Yes.
want her with these babies, and I'm ready. And I know that's hard, you
Yeah.
know, but you have so much time, Dom,
Oh
and
my
you're
gosh,
laying
yeah.
the seeds, you know, and that's part of it. This isn't your kid. Look, it's gonna be like this,
Yeah.
and they're gonna be 26, 21, 19. Like Roman is starting college in the fall.
Oh my gosh, congrats. You're at the
And
empty nesting.
on paper, and that's another topic.
Oof.
When you empty nesting, but you're not really empty nesting. It never really is empty.
Never ends.
It's just remnants of eggshells in the nest. Like you never really. And but that time will go fast. I know you're surrounded by these 3 boys, and it's just. I mean, I love to see it, but I know it's behind the scenes can be hard
Yeah.
to deal with. But it's going to be over quickly. And I
Quickly.
can't tell you how much you got to just embrace the chaos.
Yes.
You just have to embrace it because you're going to have a segment of your life when you are doing your stuff. And you're already laying the seeds and it's going to reap. It's all going to It's all gonna happen for
Yeah.
you. But enjoy this time now because it goes so fast.
I will.
I can feel that already. My kid's 4 and I'm looking at him. He's talking to me like we're having conversation. You're your own human. Like I'm looking at him. Like just walk up the stairs. You're running up the stairs. Like you're growing so tall. You don't look like a baby anymore. Like it's literally like
It's sad when they stop looking like a baby.
It's
night and
day, and
day.
it goes so fast. And even when you have as many kids as I do, and you just watch how like the 4 of them are just giving each other advice, and talking to each other
love
through
that.
problems and issues. And one of them lives in Japan now. He's been there for 2 years, and so like, but they're talking to each other and connecting with each other, and that dynamic is really, really cool.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's the most true cliche about parenthood.
Okay,
It's
what
how
is that?
fast a childhood goes. But when you're in it and you're
don't
grinding through it and you're stressing out, you think, is this shit ever going to end?
Yeah.
Like,
Yes.
am I ever going to get my autonomy? Am I ever going to be myself again? Like,
Who
who
am
am I? Who the hell am I? All those questions. But just while you're in it, just enjoy it because it just,
They say the days are long, but the days are long, but the years are quick. Or something.
yes,
like that.
yes, that's right. That's
Yes,
right.
that's the
so
phrase.
true.
Okay,
can see
so
that,
so
yeah.
speaking of early years,
Yeah.
So for those who don't know, Holly's father was the original Gordon on Sesame Street.
I didn't even know that. Oh, that's dope.
The OG,
Very
the
cool.
original
Oh, I
Gordon.
love that.
And so a lot of people don't realize, even if because Sesame Street obviously spans several generations now. But when my dad was on Sesame Street, it was in the late '60s. In the late '60s, in this country, a lot of bad shit was happening: assassinations, racism, Jim Crow was still lingering, Voting Rights Act, like just some really heavy stuff was happening. And there was no representation on television, really, of any people of color. So Sesame Street was founded and geared specifically towards kids from the inner cities, specifically in New York. The kids that you see that open the fire hydrant and, like Concrete Jungle.
Yeah.
And so a lot of
Yeah.
people don't realize how important and monumental Sesame Street was. And one of the only black male voices in the room was my dad.
Wow.
He came on as a producer, but then something happened with the original Gordon. And then the next thing you know, they asked my dad to be on camera.
Everything happens for a
Very
reason.
cool.
Now, he didn't really want to be. He was a writer and producer, but they needed him, and he stepped up to the plate. So he was the very first person you saw on the very first episode. Hi, I'm Gordon, and welcome to Sesame Street. And over here is my boy Big Bird, and here's Oscar, and
it.
here's Ernie and Bert, and Grover and Cookie Monster. So he literally introduced all those characters to the world, and it was a thing. At 5 years old, all I knew was I can't get on the show and my daddy's Gordon. The hell is going on here? He didn't want me to be on the show because he knew that when I saw the lights, he knew I wanted
it.
to be an actress.
Yeah.
At 5, he was like, if I bring her up here to the state studio, and we lived in Philly, he was in New York. They shot it in Queens in New York. This is not what I want. And my daughter, I don't even want showbiz kids.
So what did he want for you? He
I
wanted
wanted
you
to be a senator or a
Something
lawyer
big, yeah.
or something intellectual because
Yeah.
he's very much an intellectual man.
Well, little
Very education oriented. He did not want no child actress.
little
that's for
did he
sure.
know. Listen, if that was your purpose, it was gonna find you regardless.
Well, he wanted me. He wanted me to be all these other things, but everybody on my block in Philly got to go up and be on the show.
Yep.
Except for me. I was like, what the hell? Where the hell is the nepotism? What are we doing? And so finally I begged and pleaded, just let me go up one time. And I did get to go up because he finally gave in. I had one line and I was just supposed to say, hi, Gordon. And I kept saying, hi, Daddy, hi, Daddy. But there was this other little girl on the show who was kind of like his.
Oh, so you were in competition. You were
I'm
like,
still mad at her.
I'm the daughter.
And she was like, she called him daddy on the set. And I was like, what? And so I was salty. So I went on the show and I just kept messing up that line to say, that's my daddy, and my whole body language. Anyway, he was right. I was doing too much, talking too much. My brother was on too, quiet as a mouse. And I had someone just unearthed this footage recently of my one appearance on Sesame Street. And when I
gotta
saw it,
see
I was
it.
like, yeah, I was doing the most.
Oh, I gotta see this.
I'll send it to you. It'll blow your mind.
Peanut
And I think-
gallery? Peanut gallery.
Oh,
I think
wait.
we need to pull something up.
Right.
Wait
Find
until
it.
you see this footage. Y'all are going to trip. It's crazy because it's I so get why he didn't want me to do that. And then in turn later on, I didn't want my kids to be in show business either. So I got it. I get it.
But tell me, how did that then shape your career, the personal values?
As soon as I walked on that set and I saw those lights, I was like,
This is it.
I was like, this is me. And so my father really had to fight me all my childhood and adolescence not to go into showbiz because we moved. My mom and dad get divorced. We moved from Philly to Malibu. I'm going to school with people like Rob Lowe and Charlie Sheen
Very
and
cool.
Jennifer Grey and all these people who would go on to be big stars and did not go to college. My dad was like, you have to go to college. Like, that's all I ask of you is to go to college. And he was right. I mean, I'm glad I did. I had opportunities to do movies and TV shows, and I would squeeze one in here and do something there. But at the end of the day, I went to college, and I went to a small school called Sarah Lawrence College, which is upstate New York, and it's a very liberal arts school. But I remember when I graduated, my dad was just like, he exhaled, like he was just like, yes. He's like, now you're going to graduate school. It's like, wait, that
wasn't part of the
deal. So I applied to some graduate schools, but in the middle of that, I got 21 Jump Street.
Yes.
And that was the start of it all. A new show on the Fox network, new kid, nobody knew, named Johnny Depp was my co-star. And it was a ride,
Right.
like crazy. And then my daddy was like, all right, you should make us some money, so he gave me a break. But I think now in hindsight, when I think of the legacy of Sesame Street and how Matt and I got to go on 50 at the 50-year mark.
Full circle.
And that was some full circle stuff. We walked his walk, and then they brought out his Muppet. My dad had a Muppet named Roosevelt Franklin. And he was
Roosevelt.
a funky Muppet. And he was like too ahead of his time. And there was a lot of hatering going on at Sesame Street. And my dad was like, okay. So they took the Muppet away, but he's still like sitting there. And they brought him out for the first time. And Matt and I just lost it. Because my dad voiced him. But anyway, so Sesame Street for me was like the beginning. It shaped me in so many ways because it was the iconic show for me as a young girl. My dad just happened to be in it. And it was wild. Some wild days, and it's still on.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
So talking about, you were mentioning so many different people that you went to school with and all of that, and who you were looking up to, or who you were around. Who is someone, especially a woman, in the entertainment industry that you said, okay, as a young girl growing up, knowing you wanted to be an actress, that you looked up to?
Oh, Diane Carroll, because she had her own show called Julia in the 70s. And then as the full circle lives that we lead, she became friends with my mom, so I became friends with her.
Love your mom.
And I would sit at her knees and just ask her questions. What was it like? Because at the time when I met her, I was a star of my own show. And I was like, she was like, girl, you don't understand what it was like. She played a nurse in the show called Julia, and she got these flawless eyelashes, and she was just so beautiful and stunning and so classy, but she was like treated so poorly on her own set.
Wow.
And had to fight for everything, a dressing room, all that stuff. So I just would feel like she came before me, and I just felt so blessed to be able to have her as a mentor for a little while. But definitely Diane Carroll, and still to this day, when I look at her and the work that she was able to do, I just bow at the thought of her.
I'm kind of reminded, I'm sure you are too, of Vanessa Spencer came on here, and she was talking about, as a producer, some of the ways that she was treated as a minority woman. Talk about that. Did you experience some of that? What would be some advice for any young woman coming up in the industry that is a minority on how to kind of maneuver that?
Well, the good news is if you are a Black woman in show business right now, you have you've had these mentors and people who have come and have taken the brunt of it. We have an Angela Bassett who is making more than any other black woman on television has ever made. Wow. And that didn't come out of nowhere. This is a woman who should have won the Oscar. I'm still bitter about that for What's Love Got to Do with it. But she has had an illustrious career, and she earned that. But up until that, you really couldn't point at a lot of women on TV who were making what they should make. So that's the good news, that the climate has changed. I was fortunate to be on a show on Jump Street where it was a real sort of colorblind role. Like my role was so like just the girl cop, right? She was cool and she got along with everybody, and she was the girl next door, and she was kind of cool. And then even on Hang with Mr. Cooper, which was after Jump Street, that was like the black version of a show called Three's Company, and it was in the TGIF lineup, and it was sort of iconic on that level. And so I never really felt like I got a lot of that sort of that discrimination, you know. But then as things started to get a little slower, what I saw was as I started to, well, for instance, when I worked on The Talk, and you know, we were working together around that time, what I saw was I was the lowest paid co-host on there. Yet every single time they are asked to ask someone to do all the product integration. So you go to the person that's sitting at the table to do the product integration to the one that's the most consumer friendly. And I was always the one, Holly's going to do the sponsored by Target, because Holly knows how to walk, talk, chew gum, look cute in the camera, and deliver the sponsor-friendly messages.
Right,
the rest of them couldn't read
Yep.
teleprompters, or there was just something that was going on that was a little off, and so the sponsors would always go, Holly, and that created jealousy and weirdness. And so as the one black girl on there, black woman, you know, that was contributed to one of the reasons why I was let go of that show, which would have been the first time I'd ever been fired from anything.
Wow.
Talk about a shift. That was a major shift. So, and that I see still happening. I see undervaluing what we do in the box office, what we do on television, and I see sort of a pushing back of the history of Black America, not just in school and school books, but even on TV and film. So I'm always out there to remind people of what we've done, what we will continue to do. But my advice would be, now's the time, and then create several streams like Vanessa, get behind the camera, write, you know, produce, direct.
Right.
Look at Kim Fields right now directing. You know, I look at Sally Richardson. I look at all these women behind the scenes directing and finding different lanes. And these were all actresses, and just figuring out how to shift and pivot. Because they're going to get in your way on one of these lanes.
Right.
So you got to be able to change lanes.
Go the next way.
Yeah.
You had something, sorry.
No, I was saying like to the next chapter, because it's a revolving door. You got to keep up.
The evolution.
Evolution.
Keep changing. So that's another great piece of advice. And I think that that's happening. I mean, especially with social media and even podcasting and other ways that you can express yourself.
Yep.
That's giving you like automatically built in, giving you different streams and different roots and branches of the tree.
Right. I love it. Thank you for that. So all the shows that you were on during the time, 21 Jump Street, Hanging with Mr. Cooper, and as you continued on your career, how would you say, going back to your relationship and your marriage, how did Rodney support you in all of that?
Well, Rodney Peete was the guy that liked that little extra paycheck.
So he was like, cool.
He was like my pimp. Going out and get this job. Like, girl, audition for that. Rodney was not playing. And that was the difference between him and a lot of players. Because most of the players in the NFL, the wives, they would not work. They would move, and they would make sure that pipe and that slippers were ready when they came home, and rub my feet. Because these guys were working really hard, and they do need, most of them do need that, you know, woman at home that's taking care of them and handling the kids and stuff, because you are all in with football. The training camp is crazy and all of it, and the emotional toll it takes, the physical toll it takes, everything. So it is really hard for him to say, come home and make his own meal and do all that stuff.
Right.
But every time I'd be like, well, do you want me to just move there and do that? He was like, and give up that little money you making? He was like, no, I like you being a woman working.
Yeah.
I like you doing that. That's why I married you. And that was cool because that's just who he was. And that was one of the reasons why we did well. Because I think even though I was saying I'll move and hook you up, I still in my mind was like, I'm going to leave this little job. Like, I'm good over here. So he really supported that.
Yeah.
And that was one of the reasons why I think we're still together now.
I love
even
that.
though we've gone through our shit in ebb and flow in 31 years for sure. That always remained constant, that he wanted me to work, and because he felt like that fulfilled me.
Yep.
Now, and there's times when I wasn't working where I also felt very fulfilled.
Yep.
But mainly to continue working now. And when I think about we talked full circle 17 times, but when you get to be my age,
Everything's full circle for you.
every day there's a full circle moment. But over the pandemic, in 2020, I went and shot 2 movies in Canada, and I brought everybody with me.
Yeah.
And we all hunkered down in Canada, and it was like, wow, we got like these adult. Roman was still a teenager. There's a couple of them were still teenagers, but everyone was like, okay, Mom, we'll go with you. Took the dogs, everybody, and we, sheltered in place while I went off, and shot these movies. And I remember looking around going, wow, like they're supporting me because I needed them.
Yeah.
I needed to come home after those shoots and be home with my family.
Yeah.
For 2 months, I didn't want to be away from them. And remember, that wasn't when we could just fly around.
COVID was awful, yeah.
So, we're just there for each other, and you have to have people that respect what it is you want to do and you give and take.
So 2 things regarding Rodney and his NFL career. And Rodney, I guess, just as a dad. What was it like for you? Because I've heard stories of like men having to now find themselves after they end their career. Who are they out of football? So what was that transition?
What time is it, Dawn?
What did you go through?
Hold on, we're going to pretend this is something else right now.
I know. Where's the drinks?
They told me about it, these other wives, but that retirement from professional sports, that's another thing. These are boys, from boys to men that play a sport, and they're highly recruited. Rodney was on the cover of Sports Illustrated when he was just like 19.
Wow.
So it's a spotlight that's so bright on them for so many years. And when it shuts down, and the lights go off, it's like, you talk about midlife crisis. That's a post-career crisis. And remember, I when he retired, was he 38-ish?
Young.
He was still young. But it felt like the end of his life. So we had to figure out ways to make him feel important, to make him feel valued. And sometimes coming home to kids and being with kids isn't enough. They love their kids, but they miss the camaraderie, they miss the locker room, they miss the travel with the boys, they miss the spade games and the bid whiz and all that little stuff they do in the meantime. And I couldn't fulfill that. So that was one of the toughest times. Because go out, drink, self-medicate. Remember, their bodies are sore too from all those years of football. But that was a transition, and a lot of our football husband and wife counterparts did not make it through that.
Right. So what do you think was unique to your situation that, I want to emphasize what your role was in that?
Oh,
you
that
know
was
what I
all
mean?
me, Dom.
Yeah.
That was all
I can't
me.
imagine.
Because he was wearing me out. If he were here, I would say it in front of him. He was wearing me out because it's just like, ain't you got nothing to go do? Because I'm still working and, I'm not retiring.
And you had all the kids at this point.
Yes.
All the kids were here.
Roman was born the year Rodney retired.
Okay, yeah.
So we had a new baby and this retired guy in the house. And then the crazy thing with the older kids were like, I'd be coming to the room and they'd be like watching TV, eating candy at 9:00 at night. And I'm like, what are y'all doing? Dad said that we could stay. I was like, who?
It's
Oh,
always
that's
Dad.
right. He's back.
The retired one.
He's home now. So that shift, you talk about shifts. I was like, wait a second. Daddy said you could do what? We got our own rules. So with his whole energy in the house, and it was weird because, you know, when he played 16 years in the NFL.
Yeah.
So we're on a schedule. June comes around, I know he's gone, training camp, or July training camp. And I'm like, ooh, that's my time,
Yep.
right? So we were like on a schedule. So July's and he's at home. I was like, who are you?
What is going on?
What's happening
Well,
here?
because you basically are kind of living this like long distance sort of
Yeah.
relationship
Yes.
your whole life.
So I had my built-in me time.
Yeah.
And mommy was the boss. So me trying to share the power with him, that was like,
Yeah, that was tough.
yes.
I can't even
'cause he
imagine.
was giving him candy at 9.
Well, hello, what's going on over here? I'm like, he didn't eat his food and you're giving him a donut? He's got a plate of meal prepped food.
It's definitely adjusting.
It was a bribery thing he had with them. And that was his, Rodney Pete's love language is candy. And he still is. He's always had a candy thing.
Wait, is his adult love language candy or just with the kids?
Adults, kids, anybody.
Everybody.
You go look at our dental bill, you'll see why. So he
Next
would
time I
always
see
be like,
Ron and be like, here you go,
so
Ron.
Roman used to call candy when he was little, he used to call it geeky.
Oh my God.
Daddy, I said geeky, right? So geeky went on to, I'm like, no, you're not talking to these adults and saying, do you want some geeky?
Oh, that's giving like.
Ooh, that sounds a little like,
giving
what? What do you
something
want?
else.
You
Hold
guys
on.
want some geeky? I want some geeky. I was like, oh, y'all are scaring me.
Oh my gosh.
So the candy thing, and he still has his candy
Yeah.
drawer. And and then, you know, old school candy like Mike and Ike's and hot tamales and just stuff that tears your
Ooh,
teeth up.
the jelly stuff.
Right. Just the bad, sticky stuff that just messes you up. So Rodney he's never gone past that now and later's old stuff. Like y'all would probably remember. Just old
Yeah.
people candy.
That's crazy. An hour later, and Mike and Ike's are now considered old people candies. I thought that like when we were growing up, it was like what is it called? The Good and Plenty. Those
Good
were the
and
old people.
Plenty.
Oh, I love
Wait,
me a
hold on,
Good
but
and
what are
Plenty.
the red
That's the
bean-
licorice one.
The toffee red bean ones?
The
those are like
And
my
it's
grandpa
regional-
used to have
regional
those.
too, right? Like, so he grew up in Arizona, so they had something there
okay.
called not a moon pie, but some kind of little chocolate covered pie.
I remember those.
They're called moon pies.
They were moon pies. You're right.
But we didn't have those in Philadelphia, so I was like, what? It just
We
looks
had
like,
those in New York.
yeah, but you know, Philly and New York were different too because in New York, they didn't have a lot of tasty cakes. They had like not
Tasty
Entenmann's.
cakes.
Oh, I love Entenmann's.
Right,
Ooh.
right, but and
I don't
then
even
the
know
new-
what that is.
Yeah, Entenmann's is like a hostess.
Yes, you do.
But it's like
It's better than
so it's very
Hostess.
regional.
Hilarious.
And we had tasty cakes in Philly. It was all about the tasty
I
cakes.
used to love Hostess.
And so anyway, him and this geeky and these grown people. So everything was changing. So
Yeah.
that shift was really hard. The transition from retirement, because it's not your normal
it's not your
retirement.
norm. And
It's
like,
not normal to tell somebody they can't do something anymore at 38, 30,
and especially when
38
they've
years
been
old.
doing it in like their entire life. Like
Yes.
my child's father, he played basketball for his whole entire life, and even like through because we've been together since the end of high school for me. So even during his college career, it was like we knew that he was not just going to stop there. Like we knew
Right.
that he was going to continue regardless of where he went, but we knew like he was going to continue. Then he got injured and tore his Achilles his senior year, and that kind of like sat him out. And then he kind of went through like a little funk, but then he got back on his feet. And then he went across seas. He was in the G League for a little bit. Then he went back across seas. And then in 2020, we had a baby, and that sat him down completely. And then a job opportunity moved him here. So now it's like trying to find that step again, because all you know is eat, breathe, and sleep being an athlete.
That's
You're not
Yeah.
in a regular world of working. Like we were just talking the other day, and I'm like, he came to like
never
not
really
came to the
worked.
realization, but it's like I never really worked with people. Like I never
Right.
really like had to have like a 9 to 5.
That's
It
right.
truly was just
That's
like
right.
I was an athlete. I may have been a leader on my team. But it's like I played a role. It's
Yeah.
like it was just a different type of dynamic. So it's like shifting out of that, because you are kind of like everyone's looking at you differently when you're
Yes.
an athlete.
Yep.
Versus
Yeah.
when you get into the regular world of 9 to 5, you're not looked at like you're just looked at like, you're just a human existing versus like being, I don't know. It's like it's a complete different light. So that shift is, I can imagine it's tough.
so hard. And
tough.
then even going through, like you said, G League, going here, traveling there, working there, trying to get this next job. I mean, and the what you said that really gave me a little PTSD was that injury, the injury situation. I nursed this man back from so many injuries.
Oh, man.
Patella, 2 Achilles, you name it. And then
2
not
Achilles?
to mention, oh yeah, 2. He got the matching scars.
Well, good for
up the
him
back
that he
of
was
his-
able to
He was
really,
able
like,
to
thrive
come back
through
through 2
for so
Achilles
long.
and a patella
Yeah.
and still play for 17, 16
That's what I was gonna
years.
say.
Oh, that's amazing.
So I mean, it was remarkable, but it was still journey.
whirlwind.
It was rough. It was rough.
You were married to the game too. I mean, that's
Whew.
what they say.
Yeah.
Married to the
Married
game,
to the
and then
Oh,
not even being that
man.
conventional mom and wife, you know. And he was very, you know, like again, I kept sort of offering to sort of give stuff up, and he was like, mm-mm.
No, don't
Yeah.
do it. So he retires, okay, which is after you have the kids. But now I'd like to go into kind of we talk about full circle moment. That's like a theme here, obviously. So you guys started doing things together. So you have the foundation.
Yeah.
So first, let's go into when you had RJ and Ryan, and RJ gets his diagnosis.
Yeah.
What that did to you, what that did to Rodney. I know that your father also had Parkinson's disease. So let's
Yeah.
go into like your life of caregiving.
Yeah, so I became a caregiver when I was 19 and 20 because my dad was diagnosed with Parkinson's in the mid 80s. Now, that was before Michael J. Fox and Muhammad Ali, and like before Parkinson's became like a household word. So all I knew was, and before the internet, by the way, so I couldn't really
Yeah.
Dr.
Do your
Google it,
research.
right? I remember going to the library at Sarah Lawrence and like looking up in the library and all of that to see what Parkinson's was, and all I saw was neurological and incurable. Now I wanted to quit college to caregive for him, and remember Mr. Education. I was
Right.
like, oh no, So I kind of did both. He was in New York, I was kind of half hour outside of New York, and I would go back and forth and go to school and watch him too. It was tough.
Yeah.
So my caregiving life started very early. When RJ was diagnosed with autism, that was a whole nother thing.
Yeah.
Because we were given so little hope as to what he would ever be able to do. And you've heard me tell this story a million times. The diagnosis day, we called the never day, because we were told this laundry list of things that the boy would never do. And he was 3. I'm like, yo, are you going to let the kid grow? Or,
Right.
and it was so devastating and so tough. And we just had these twins, and that was it. So we didn't know. He's still playing. Rodney's still playing at this time, and he was in total denial.
Yeah.
Because this little boy was supposed to win the Heisman Trophy. Because Rodney Peete was a runner up,
Yep.
and he was like, "That's all right. My son's gonna win it," and he wasn't even talking
Yeah.
at 2 and 3. So it was hard,
Yep.
and his devastation was so real and just so tough to deal with. And then I went into like gangster mom mode where I was just like, oh no, I'm gonna fix this. I'm gonna get this right. And so we really clashed there, and that almost
Broke us.
broke us up, because I was like, okay, you're not on my page. You're slowing me down. I need you to be on this team, RJ, and figure
Yep.
this out. And he eventually came around. Thank God.
Yep.
And now I love seeing him like go around and talk to other guys, other men, dads, because I think in some cases, not all, men just process any kind of developmental disorder for their children
Yeah.
differently than
Yeah.
moms do. Not in all cases. I've seen some moms check out and the dads had to take over. But in our case, Rodney Peete was in denial. So that was a struggle.
Yep.
Like, you are just not on my team now. Like, you got to be the quarterback, start quarterbacking.
Right. And
You
on
know.
RJ's team for the benefit of him.
He
like-
He couldn't see that. All he
No.
was seeing was disappointment. And remember, this lady told him he wasn't going to do shit in life.
Yeah.
So now what does he do? Because you said you emphasized on all this laundry list of everything he cannot do. Did you guys were able to prove to doctors where it's like, yeah, he might be on the spectrum, he got autism, but he's thriving in these areas
Well, I'll
that you
answer
said.
that. My favorite like little snippet of RJ's, he's like, I think he was, I don't know how old he was, maybe like 10 or 11 or something. He's like, yeah, they told me I would never talk, and now I can't stop talking.
Let me tell you something.
love
RJ be
it.
sticking it to this doctor.
Yes.
When I tell you RJ's kept them receipts,
I
and he
love
will
that.
tell you that. Remember the never day mom? He will articulate that, and it's so powerful to hear him to go from being a nonverbal kid
Yeah.
to being like they said I couldn't do this, but look at me now. It's such
Oh,
a
it
powerful
chills.
testimonial. Like, it's so powerful. And that's why I knew we had to talk about it, like, publicly. Because if I had seen an RJ, when RJ got diagnosed and they said, oh, you ain't never going to talk mainstream in school, say I love you, have a meaningful employment, any of that stuff, I'd have been like, oh.
Right.
But if I looked up and saw, you know, two people, actress and a football player with a platform, and said, oh, well, look what our son was able to do. And don't ever let anybody put limitations on your child, ever. I would have been like, yes.
Yep.
But I didn't see that.
No.
So I knew I had to try to be that. Because, and now to this day, like, when people come up to us and they'll be like, oh, we really, like, thank God for you guys, because we
Yeah.
saw possibilities. I mean, RJ is, when I tell you this boy is thriving, he's checked off all the nevers. He is working for the Dodgers. He's in his 9th season, being a attendant, clubhouse attendant. He went from not having any friends his whole childhood because he really couldn't socially connect, to having an entire baseball team of friends.
I love it.
And they love his ass. He hugs them. He's this, and I'm always, you know, on social media, I was like, thank you, Dodgers, for embracing my son. And they're like, if you don't stop telling us
Right.
thank you, we need to thank you, because what this man brings and puts us in this energy, and the energy he brings to the clubhouse is just phenomenal.
Yeah.
So, you know, I could just sob these eyelashes off just thinking about what we've been through.
Yeah.
And what this team has done for RJ, giving him
Yeah.
this job, giving him purpose, dignity, a paycheck. He got his little money, and he loves his. I'm telling you, I mean, he has really, really brought it. So, but those early days, Dom,
Yeah.
we were. Rodney was wearing me out,
Yeah.
and when he finally came around, it was so helpful, and I'm so glad. But I was totally prepared to do this job on my own.
So how did you guys start the foundation? And tell me about the history of that and now what you guys have coming up.
Yeah, so Holly Rod Foundation was started because my dad with his Parkinson's. We hadn't got the diagnosis of autism yet, but we sort of knew it was coming. So, and we were not ready to even, I couldn't even say the word autism at the beginning. People think I just stood up on a table and started advocating, but I did not. It took a minute. But for my dad, what we were seeing was people were, when I went public with it, I went on one of the national shows and started talking about Parkinson's, and we were getting flooded with letters. Oh my God, my dad, my uncle, he doesn't have the money to get the dopamine replacement, which is what, you know, you need for Parkinson's to almost unfurl your body. And just talking about it, we couldn't believe the response. So we were
Wow.
like, oh, we're gonna start a nonprofit because not everybody has great jobs like we do, and we need to bring some awareness. And then we did that, and then we got the diagnosis of autism. And it wasn't until about several years later that we were able to start talking publicly about it. But we knew we had to expand our mission because, again, we didn't see anybody advocating.
Right.
So we knew
Right.
we had to get out there and do that. And then, so for 26 years, we've had this nonprofit. We do these big fundraiser events. We support families and caregiver support. We do a lot of autism awareness. We do job training. We do
Simulations.
yeah, we do so many different things. Where we do events where we shut down an aquarium and we bring, I mean, it doesn't sound like a big deal, but like our kids can't always go to public places
Right.
and not be judged.
Right.
And so we do that. I mean, we just have a lot of really great programs. One of my favorite programs is called School to Fly American, where we partner with American Airlines and we bring all these kids through the airport, because the airport and traveling for a kid with autism can be like a sensory jungle.
There's
Like,
a lot
it's
going on.
so much going on, and nobody cares. Nobody gives a shit.
Yep.
My kid is kicked in the back of your seat. They don't care if he has autism. They gon', you know. So I've almost gotten, you know, arrested from many airplanes because, you know, your kids, like, you know what I mean? Like, and you just like, he has autism, but they didn't understand. So we have that program with American to help alleviate what that looks like.
Listen, in hindsight, because when I was working with Holly in the foundation, I didn't have kids. And so now that I have kids and we travel all the time, I need a program like that for just kids without autism.
Right,
Because
right.
no kid wants to stay on a plane
No.
for 10 hours. And there's been times where people are like looking at you and you've now booked out more of the first class than they did, but they want you to move. I'm
Right,
like, no, how
right.
about you go?
They don't want
You
you,
know?
and they don't want you sitting up
No,
front. I
they
know that.
don't.
They
And
want
it's
you in the
like,
back of the plane.
Do you think I want my kids screaming out this whole flight right now? No,
Yeah.
I'm more stressed than you
And
are.
if anything, I'm embarrassed. Like
Yeah.
y'all are looking at me like do something. And it's like I'm trying. I'm trying.
Yeah.
Have a kid and bring them on the flight and let me know. Let me tell you, the first time my kid screamed in the store, I was like, oh yeah. I take it back. I take it back. Cause
Yeah.
what?
No, but it's so true. It's like I love that. I immediately thought of that program. I was thinking about it. I was talking about the
that
other way, but
program
it's
is
really great.
So great. And we're able to put kids on a plane that could never get on a plane
Mm-hmm.
before with no judgment. And we simulate a takeoff and we simulate all the feelings of what happens and
Yep.
the talking through the, just everything, the seatbelt, all of that. And it's such a great program. And we've done about 8 of them now all across the country. And they're
Yes.
just amazing. So Holly Rod is a really important, I call Holly Rod Foundation my 5th child.
It is.
Because, and Dom knows, because it's so much work. Giving back is so
It's a
much
lot.
work, but it's so fulfilling for me. And as much as I bitch and moan and complain and want to beat somebody up every day, the feeling you get when you know you have given someone hope,
Yep.
or you've given someone a job or purpose or anything like that, or just even caregiver respite, like giving caregivers like a day off. So we have a lot of different programs that we cover, but at the end of the day, like we just want to help folks make their journey a little bit easier. We've had 25 fundraisers,
Yep.
galas. Dom has helped me plan several of them. They are really hard to do, and they're very, very, they're really cool events. We love them. But we have our 26 coming up. Dom, I thought 25 was going to be the end.
And it's 26.
And
No,
here
it's 30.
comes 20.
30.
You're going to do
Yeah,
30, and then
gotta
it's going to be
be
35.
Now I got to go to 30.
Now you got to go to 30.
Well, the boys have announced to me, Robinson and Roman, that they want to take over Holly Rod.
Ooh.
That they feel like they want to do it. Now, nobody has said this. So now I feel like I have a new purpose, that I have got to keep it going for them.
That would be
But
great.
they just said, we really want to take it over. And then while you're planning this one, can we be more involved? Can we get on the mic? Can we show that we want to inherit this? I was like, yes, you can.
Oh, yes.
So-
what Robinson going to do? Take it to Japan?
Well,
I mean, he does have the fashions out there.
he
can bring
does
it-
have the
bring a
fashions out
designer
there.
down.
I don't know if he's ever coming home from Japan
Right.
permanently. But at the end of the day, like just the fact to hear your sons
Yeah.
say, we want to do this. We love what
That
you're
is
doing.
incredible.
We want to be the next
You're
generation
building
of
an
this.
empire.
Yeah, we want to keep going with it. Even when they have seen me underneath the bed, shaking and dying because it's so stressful, they still were just like, "Oh, we want to do this." I was like, "Wow."
That is so exciting. I mean,
Yeah.
I love that. And they'll bring a new flair to it. They can work
Yes.
closer with RJ.
They're like, "Mom, we're gonna book the acts though. We're gonna get some more." I'm like, "Listen, we can't get Kendrick." Okay, so like I know you want, because I like my old school R&B, right?
Right.
And I like my little neo soul and
Me
stuff.
too.
And they're like, "Mom, we got to."
So when is Design Care this year?
So Design Care is going to be September 28th.
Mm-hmm.
We're honoring Viola Davis, which we're really excited about.
Beautiful.
And yeah, she's
Incredible.
amazing and just a great philanthropist. But we also have some awesome other people that we're acknowledging in the Parkinson's and autism space. And we have a designer. We always have a fashion show. This year, our designer is a designer named Frederick Anderson, an African-American designer in New
cool.
York who's fabulous. And I love my old school. So After 7
Yep.
is going to perform.
Ooh, I
and
love
I'll be
After
there, and
7.
I can't
Yeah.
stop.
I love
I
After
love it. So
7.
listen, that's my joint. And
Make sure we go in or what?
yeah,
We're
y'all
going,
gonna
come on.
You're gonna have a good time. It's so much fun.
Mark it on my calendar.
But yeah, so doing number 26.
That is so great. Congratulations.
Yeah.
One thing I do want to say, and I want to show a short clip, if we can, and it embodies basically what I've learned from you. And it's so funny because, again, like I said, before you have kids, you don't really, understand how things are
Yeah.
affecting you or what you're
Yeah.
taking in. But to hear the way that you spoke about autism and kids with autism, there's been so many families that have come to me because they knew after I worked with you, like, oh, my kid has autism, or oh my gosh, it's just so sad. And it's like the saddest negative news, you know what I
Yeah,
mean? And
yeah.
when you talk to Holly, it's like, it's a challenge, but it's something that you can jump on right away. And you just have to care for them differently, and they learn things differently. And it's more of a positive approach that you've had. And my son, for some people don't know, but my son has it's called ptosis, which is like a droopy eyelid. And, initially I was like sad. I'm like, oh no, what does this mean? Like, but immediately it's like you change your mindset into like, hey, how can I care for him and make sure that I can fix his eye, make sure that he'll be able to see, that he doesn't develop, any other issues. And that's what I've been able to take on my journey. But it's something that's been instilled in me, honestly, when I think about it, through, you're the first person I've ever met that's cared for children and changed the outlook of, obviously my son isn't having autism, but just in general, when kids need care, it's a lot of stress on families.
Yeah.
Whereas if you can change your mentality and just start learning what's the best avenue for them to heal or to progress or whatever it is, that's what's important to me. And so we found this clip that you were the doctor on Proud Family. And I loved the way you were talking to the family. So I want to get some
Another
information
full
on
circle
this.
moment.
Yeah. So you want to play it?
But even you saying like Cade, not Cade, your little Cade's Cruz. Even when you were saying with him, and just learning how to care for him differently, it kind of resonates just in general, because it is like a negative connotation that you get when you're like a diagnosis of autism.
Yeah.
But if you look at it where it's like every child is different, regardless of if you're diagnosed with something, if you're not, like every child is different and everybody needs a different approach. So it's like maybe looking at it also that way, where it's like everybody is different. You're special.
Yeah, absolutely.
You have two lovely children, happy, healthy. You should be proud. Cece, I'm glad to report, is in the high 90s percentile for every single developmental evaluation that I gave her. BB, however,
What? What's wrong with my baby?
I believe BB is showing signs of what we call autism.
You calling my boy stupid? I knew Payne sent us to a quack. Let's go, Trudy. We don't have to listen to this.
Oscar, sit down.
No, Trudy, it's all right. Look, Mr. Proud, my evaluation shows BB is highly intelligent, extremely curious, and absolutely fearless. The last of which I suspect is because he doesn't process pain the way you and I do. And though it's not always the case, it's a common indicator of...
An indicator of what?
Mr. Proud, I sense your apprehension. But all an autism diagnosis means is BB will need a little extra effort and attention.
What? So just to be clear, Dr. Lord, you're saying BB is on the spectrum?
Yes. Yes, I am. BB is at a lower support level, but it might change and fluctuate as he grows up, sometimes day to day. However, needing support doesn't equate to lack of ability. It's most important for you, his family, to continue believing in him, teaching him, and helping him reach his full potential.
Okay. Well, I guess we'll be on our way then.
So that's incredible. I mean, it's like, because people get so hyper focused on everything that they can't do. I loved how. Did you have anything to do with like kind of writing that script?
The only thing well, first of all, when I found out that they were going to reboot this show, I thought it was really cool. My kids, I didn't watch it because generationally, but my kids loved it.
Right.
Sure did.
I have done a lot of things on TV. When they found out I was going to be in the reboot of the Proud Family, everybody was like, no, say on God. I gotta say on God about the Proud Family? Like, wow. I did not realize how much it was embedded in them culturally,
it is.
for the culture.
We grew up on
Y'all
that.
grew up on it. So that was number one. Number two, my really good friend Ralph Farquhar is one of the producers, and he called and he said, we're going to BB has autism, and we would like you to be the doctor who diagnoses him. And I was like, oh my God, yes. Yeah. But I was a little concerned about how they would approach it, because, it's a comedy too, right? And the way they wrote it, I was so mind blown and so excited about it. And then when I saw that Ryan Destiny had posted about it or reposted someone, I said, oh, this is a perfect way for me to put it out there. It's not like, oh, hey, look at me, I'm Dr. Lord in the new reboot of Proud Family. So I just reposted that and it went viral. And I think what's so significant is, like you said, is about not what we can't do, what the kids can do, but also in the African American community, we have way too many stigma hang-ups about what autism is and anything neurological or, a lot of our families will be like, just, discipline it out of them. And, it's a lot of old school thinking that goes on. So I love that it's the awareness on this platform, not just the younger people, but the generation like you guys who grew up on it, who can look at that and go, wow, that's really cool. And we just need to reframe and reposition what autism is.
Yep.
And Don, you've heard me say 1,000 times, I wouldn't change RJ for the world because he's so amazing. Like, if RJ walked in this room, you'd be like, oh my gosh, he's awesome. But I would always try to change the world for RJ.
Yeah.
Because it's the world that doesn't treat them properly and doesn't understand. So that little piece on Proud Family Reboot, that's going to go a long way to spread autism acceptance.
Yeah, I'm telling you, exactly what she's saying is literally how she lives her life. She's always used to say, I don't know if you still do, but she would always say, you don't have to say that he's autistic. He has autism. Like the autism diagnosis doesn't define who he is.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And
but you know what I learned since then, Dom? Because I said that in a crowd of a lot of autism families and stuff. And there's a whole shift in how they're saying autistic. I used to not like autistic. And then again, I would just defer to RJ. I was like, what do you want? He was like, and he was little. He would go, I'm not autism. And I knew he was trying to say that that's not everything I am.
Yeah.
And he used to say, I might have autism, but autism doesn't have me. And he's saying this kind of stuff, 10, 11, 12-ish.
Yeah.
But now there's a whole new group of people who are embracing autism and calling themselves autistic and really like, that's who I am, accept me. And so that's a whole generational kind of cultural shift that's happening. And my thing is, you can just be how you want to identify. You want to be autistic? You want me to call you that? That's fine. My son prefers to not make that. He prefers person first language.
Right.
Yes,
that's not
like that.
that's not his primary.
And
That's-
that's
I also
and
agree with
anybody
that.
else who doesn't agree with that, that's okay. Things are changing. Things are
Everybody's
shifting.
different.
Most of the kids, the young people I've met that are in their 20s, like the word autistic. So I'm like, whatever you want.
Interesting.
Yeah, isn't that weird?
That's very
it definitely
interesting.
was a seismic shift. I didn't like that. And I'm like, you know what? I got to defer to who the people are. And that is important.
Well, I love Holly Rod. Well, I love your family. I love Holly Rod. I love RJ. Just you changed my perspective on anything, caregiving. Even my friends who just have kids that have something completely different, or whether I have a girlfriend who has Dravet, her daughter has Dravet syndrome, which is like a severe form of epilepsy, to anything cosmetic, like my son has ptosis. It's like, you never want your kid to have something. You know what I mean?
Of course, you want them to be. You don't want them to have any more hurdles in life than they normally gonna have.
Right.
Okay, if your child is, a black child, or if your child is growing up in a neighborhood that's, you want to give them the best. You want to start them out on second base.
Right.
You don't want them to have to go through first. And
Work harder.
You really want to kind of move stuff out of the way for it. I call it a snowplow mom, when you just like snowplow everything out of the way, so they go ahead, now you're good.
It's true.
But what I want to say to you is that you already had this kind of advocate mom in you. I'm really very, very honored to hear that I had any influence on you. But you really had that in you already, and the way you advocate for your sons is remarkable.
Thank you.
And that I see, because even when you got the diagnosis and you were trying to figure out, she was calling me with doctors, and I found this, and you check this resource out. It wasn't even nothing to do, but she would see something along her journey that had to do with autism, and she would send it to me.
Oh yeah, always.
So that is what a good gangsta mom does.
Yeah, that's right.
And you're doing it. And so just like we started at the beginning of the conversation, you'll look up later on and you go, yeah, I was really advocating for him in ways that I didn't even realize. But, you know, that's what momming is, you know, just constantly coming up with new ways to thug it out.
Yep.
You know, and figure out how to get there.
Well, I want to say thank you so much for being on. I have
of
one
course.
last question for
Yeah.
you before we end. So, as a woman, doesn't have to be in your relationship, doesn't have to be with your kids or whatever. It could be in any walk of life. What would you say, like, your me again moment when you're like, okay, there's Holly.
What was my me
There she-
again
there she
moment?
is.
I think my me again moment was when I went to Europe. I want to say I was definitely not empty nester. The baby was, you know, we all go the which child was how old. He was, Roman was probably about 10 or 11. But Rodney and I went to Europe and we just fell into this girlfriend-boyfriend mode.
Oh.
And it all came to a sudden halt when my mom called and said something about the kids. I was like, okay. Dream killer, dream crusher. But we just had this kind of, we fell into this, oh my God, like we're out here, it's beautiful, and we're dating. And actually we were in Greece. And we were jet skiing on this really quiet part of the ocean that was kind of creepy because it was so deep and so clear that it was almost like I was jet skiing on the top of a building and looking down.
Oh my
Like that's
goodness.
how high I was. But anyway, it was just me and him out there doing our thing. And we just looked at each other and we're just like, this is amazing.
Wow, finally.
Yeah,
We're back
like
here.
we're here. We're in Greece. But it doesn't have to be in Greece. It doesn't have to be. It's just taking stock of how much you've done in your life
Yep.
and giving yourself props, patting yourself on the back and going, all right, I've come all the way this far, and just looking in each other's eyes. So it wasn't so much about us seeing each other again, but it was about us seeing ourselves through each other.
Yeah, I love that.
You know, and that was important because he's my life mate. I mean, I want to, you know, I've had other moments where it's been about me and I've rediscovered myself. But at the end of the day, he's my partner. And if he's not good, I'm not good.
Oh, I love that.
But that was a moment in Greece where we're jet skiing around and we stopped in the middle of this, like first of all, I was like, where is everybody?
Yeah, let me know because I want to go there.
It's on the other side of Greece. It's not like the Mykonos,
Yeah.
Santorini
It's like
side.
one
It's
of
the
those
other
remote
side,
islands.
Lefkada. Everything's very remote, very quiet, and like old school Greece.
Yeah, beautiful.
And it just brought us to our knees when it came to like the beauty and the quiet and the stillness. And we actually looked in each other's eyes and was like, oh, hey, there you are. And then I think I'm putting it out there. I'm going to have that moment and this birthday coming
I
up.
knew that's what you were going to say.
This birthday coming up.
When's the
Hey,
birthday?
60.
It's
September.
right, sexy 60.
Okay.
It's coming up in September 18th. I have to work that whole month and can't celebrate until afterwards, so I'll probably do everything in October. But I'm about to have a big ass party.
As you should.
I love it.
And
Celebrate
at first
you.
I was all like, I don't want to, and I want to keep it. So,
Yes, celebrate you.
because
yes,
a lot
ma'am.
of people don't get to even get to 60, sadly.
Especially these days.
And Rodney's friends, a lot of the guys in the NFL are dying in their 40s and 50s. And like, so I'm going to just embrace this big birthday and get turned. And, you know, I'm just going to have a good old time.
I love it.
So get ready.
Oh my
We'll be
God.
watching.
We partying.
I
Partying.
love it.
Because, I mean, the blessing of getting older
is.
is not given to everyone.
No.
And so I'm going to celebrate.
And it's all that wisdom too. I'm telling you. I'm
you.
trying. I'm open ears.
I was gonna
listening in.
say, like, you're like a breath of fresh air, like wisdom.
Oh,
That's why I
thank
like
you.
to speak to people who have experienced life,
Yeah.
more life than I have, because
Yeah.
it's like people go through so many different transitions and changes and experiences, and it shifts, and it just makes your mindset better. It
Yes.
just helps you grow and just mature. And you're just a breath of fresh air.
Thank
So
you.
wisdom.
So are you guys. I was like, what am I gonna tell these young ladies? Like, I mean, and then I do feel like, when you get older, you definitely do learn and you're wiser and stuff. But I'm still learning, right? I'm still getting life lessons every single day. But the biggest lesson that I have, and the mantra I keep hearing in my head is like, oh my gosh, you're just going to hit this milestone, and you're not just, you're going to look back and go, okay, I fucked up sometimes. I made some mistakes. I did some stupid shit. But at the end of the day, I really did the damn thing,
I love that.
I mean, it ain't over. And look,
still
my
going.
mom is 88 and
Her mom looks like there's no way.
doing the absolute
yeah.
Do
most.
we see the apple doesn't fall
Her
far
mom
from
gets
the
a
tree?
tattoo every year and like
Oh, I
colors her
love
hair.
that. Even now?
She is tatted up.
Yes.
Okay.
Every birthday from the time she was
She's about to have a
75. So
sleeve.
now she's 88. So she is inked
Yeah.
up. And it's so much. It's so over the top and so much. But
Good
you know what?
for
She embraces
her.
life, and I definitely see that model that she's modeled and she's not age phobic. She's always like she'll tell you she's 88 before you even get a chance to say hi.
I'm 88.
Yeah.
I'm proud of it.
Oh yeah.
You
she'll
know
have
this old
t-shirts.
woman.
Oh
I'm
yeah,
like,
honey.
okay.
Look at my waistline. I mean, honey, she will let you know. But I think it's really important to have modeled and seen that, because it is important to embrace that, and it's important to just be thankful for the blessings that you have to continue to learn these lessons.
I love it. Okay, so where can those who are watching find information on Hollyrod Foundation and also Design Care particularly?
Hollyrod Foundation is at hollyrod.org. And we're all over social media. Actually, it's Hollyrod FDN, like foundation, on Instagram and I think Twitter as well. Or it's not Twitter, whatever it is now, X. So we're all over. And of course, I'm all over social media. And love that tool to talk about the things that are important to me, but especially Hollyrod. And and for Design Care, for the event on the Hollyrod website, all the information is there.
Great. All right. Well, thank you so much. It was so great to have you here. And I cannot wait to go to Design Care.
Yeah,
I'm ready. I'm
be
getting my
there.
outfit ready today.
Watch out, I'm going to put you to work.
I'm going to work. I'm going to help. And I'm also going to be there.
Thank you so much. This is such a great podcast. And I'm honored to be here.
Thank you.